Ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to give you a few words on the organization of the wood and forest sector for the Olympic Games in Paris in 2024. I shall try to present our goals, and at the end, I shall be pressing several recommendations for southern countries of Europe and perhaps for all over Europe. Well, the engagement of France for the Olympic Games is to have the best trajectory, the best commitment comparison with the Olympic Games in London. So we are supposed to have 30% less carbon emission compared to London and 50% less emission for building and constructions. So the Olympic Games will be in two important sites in the east of Paris. Perhaps you see on the screen the Seine, which is a little curve, and then you'll have the Village Olympique near Seine, and then the Village des Médias, Media Village, in the east of Paris. Those Olympic Games will be with 10,500 athletes, with Paralympic athletes. The calendar is quite difficult because we must build the buildings. They will be achieved at November 2023. Then after we have the games, and then the building will be changed, replaced by offices or flats, and they will be sent to they will be sent to persons. The Olympic Village is about 315 square meters, and at the end, we think, because not everything is done today, we hope to have 50% wooden structure for buildings, less than 28 meters, and we hope to have 80% of structures of facades that will be with wood. The French action will be first phase. We for France Bois 2024, we try to help the stakeholders, we try to help the builders in order to choose the wood, and it is not so evident because in France we used to build with concrete. So we made a brochure and we made technical studies, for example, for facade. And then we have an action in order to have communication with our timber builders in order to say, come to the Olympic game, try to compete. And then we made meet up, webinars, and of course I send you to our site, which is www.francebois2024.com, and you'll find all the studies we've done. And we have also a phase of training and education in order to have enough builders to build all these wooden or timber buildings. We wanted to have an important image, an important exposition of timber buildings, as we had in Milan a few years ago. And perhaps you know that the Pavilion France in Milan was an important building, and in France it has been a great image. nowadays, we think, because as I said, no, not all is decided, we shall have about 30,000 cubic meters of wood that will be used for these games. Here you can see one of the buildings, which is the Arena 2. This is a great building with the capacity of 8,000 seats. It will be 100% wood frames and 60% of solid wooden in the facade. Another very important building is the new aquatic center. It is a flexible building that can host between 6,000 to 2,500 places. The constructor is Bouygues, with an important timber constructor, which is Matisse. Then I said we could have several recommendations, as we have worked in France Bois 2024 for about 3 years, and it was a very big fight with the other materials. For example, for concrete, as we used to build in France with concrete, and the companies with their habits preferred to have concrete buildings, and so that's why you have not, of course, all the buildings that are timber that will be timber constructed. So what we can give as messages after those 3 years, that it's important to accompany with research and studies on the wood construction, because we are several fake news or problem, for example, for fires, and some constructors said, well, if you have a timber building, they will burn. And so we had to prove that it was not so important. Of course, we have innovating technicals. For example, for the showers, as the Olympic Games have Paralympic flags, we must be at the level of the ground, and so we don't choose to do this in France. The other recommendation I shall give, the second, is to adapt the rules of constructions or regulations, and to have new standards, because our construction used to build as they do, and perhaps in France we have about perhaps 8% of the construction of the buildings that are wooden made, and the most important are on concrete. In France, we have the goal to have about perhaps 20%. So 20% in 2030, and some of the countries in Europe are at this level, but we in France are not at this level. And so we must have new standards, new regulation in order to get it. One of the idea of our government and our sector is to have a new life cycle analysis, which we call dynamic, and this is prepared to help the bio-basis material as wood-based material to be more competitive in the regulation. So we've been asked to have perhaps a European standard on dynamic life cycle analysis. And I think we must work all on this field in order to show that it's a good way. Of course, to increase this share of the market in order to get the 20%, we must have competitive prices, and we have seen that concrete was rather competitive, and perhaps we had a surprise to see that there were new concrete that were low to have a low carbon concrete, and we need concrete, for example, for the foundation. But the figures that are given to us of decreasing of the emission of carbon of concrete is rather astonishing. And then we have an important communication and lobbying, again, those fake news, and in order to make books, to make TV emissions, and to be on social networks to change these things. So I thank you very much to have heard me, and I will answer perhaps if I can to the other question in a moment.